In the heart of the city's busiest subway station, the rush-hour crowd moved with the usual hurried purpose, oblivious to the danger lurking among them. The distant echo of arriving trains mingled with the cacophony of footsteps, chatter, and the metallic clatter of escalators. Suddenly, a tense silence began to ripple through the crowd as a man stepped forward, a jagged knife clenched in his hand, his eyes wild and desperate. Clutched tightly under his other arm was a large German shepherd, its ears pinned back, panting unevenly, a leash tangled around its neck. Beside the dog stood a young woman in uniform, her face pale but resolute, her hands raised slightly as she tried to calm the situation. The man's voice cut through the murmurs, hoarse and sharp. "Nobody move. One wrong step and the dog gets it. You hear me? I'm not bluffing." His grip tightened on the leash, and the dog's body stiffened, muscles taut, eyes darting in all directions. The handler, Corporal Jenna Hayes, exchanged a brief, meaningful glance with her canine partner, Blitz, who whimpered softly but held his ground, sensing the tension. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. Around them, commuters froze, their eyes wide with fear. Phones came out, some capturing the unfolding drama, others frantically dialing emergency numbers. The station's overhead lights flickered, casting shifting shadows across the tiled walls and steel beams. Behind the crowd, a train idled silently, its doors open, the platform packed with people too stunned to move. A voice crackled over the station's PA system, calm and authoritative, but failing to reach the immediate danger zone. "All passengers, please remain calm. Authorities are on their way." But the man with the knife ignored the announcement, his gaze fixed on the handler, the dog, and the sea of faces before him. Unbeknownst to the crowd, a figure stood just beyond the throng, partially hidden in the shadows near a stairwell. Marcus Kane, a Navy SEAL recently returned from his latest deployment, observed the scene with keen eyes. His jaw clenched as adrenaline surged through his veins, the weight of his military experience sharpening his focus. His dark hair was damp with sweat despite the cool air of the underground station, and his posture was tense, ready to spring into action. His mind raced through possibilities, calculating the risks. The man was volatile, desperate, and dangerous. The presence of the dog and handler complicated the situation. They were both hostage and potential shield. The knife wielder's threats were clear, but his motives were obscured. Marcus's training took over. Every muscle primed for movement, every sense attuned to the faintest shift in the man's stance or the dog's breathing. Jenna Hayes, though terrified, maintained a steady voice, whispering commands to Blitz, who responded with subtle shifts in posture, a testament to their deep bond forged through rigorous training. She knew that any sudden move could provoke the man, but hesitation could be just as deadly. Her eyes met Marcus's briefly, a flicker of hope passing between them, though he remained concealed, waiting for the perfect moment. The crowd remained frozen, the tension mounting with each passing second. Some tried to edge away quietly, others clutched loved ones tighter. The air was thick with fear and uncertainty. Marcus's gaze flicked to the exits, the security cameras, and the approaching footsteps of emergency responders echoing faintly from the station entrance. He recognized that waiting for backup could mean losing the chance for a clean intervention. The man with the knife suddenly raised his voice, trembling but forceful. "Anyone tries to be a hero. I swear I'll—" His threat was cut short as Blitz gave a low growl. His body coiled like a spring, eyes locked on the man's hand that held the blade. Jenna's voice dropped to a soothing murmur, trying to calm her partner. But the danger was palpable. Marcus stepped closer, his movements deliberate and silent, weaving through the crowd like a shadow. His military vest was concealed beneath a dark jacket, the weight of his combat knife strapped to his thigh, a silent promise of swift action. His breathing was controlled, every heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the chaos around him. The man's grip faltered for a fraction of a second as he noticed Marcus's approach, but desperation kept him rooted. The dog's tension grew, muscles twitching, ready to leap. Jenna's fingers tightened on the leash, her knuckles white, but her resolve unbroken. She whispered, "Steady, Blitz. Stay with me." Suddenly, the man's eyes scanned the crowd, wild and searching for escape, but the subway station offered no easy routes. Panic flickered across his face, and his knife hand shook. The crowd's collective breath caught as he took a half-step forward, threatening to lash out. In that heartbeat, Marcus made his move. With the precision of a seasoned warrior, he lunged forward, closing the distance in a blur. His hand shot out, grabbing the man's wrist just as the blade swung downward. The force of the interception sent a shockwave through the attacker's arm, and Marcus twisted sharply, disarming him with a practiced flick that sent the knife skittering across the platform floor. The man reeled, startled and unbalanced, but Marcus's grip was ironclad. With a swift motion, he pinned the attacker's arm behind his back, forcing him down onto the cold tile. Around them, the crowd erupted into gasps and whispers, some moving to assist, others frozen in disbelief at the sudden burst of violence. Jenna's hand shot out to grab Blitz, who immediately relaxed, his body sagging with relief as he nuzzled against her. The dog's fierce alertness softened, his eyes brightening as he sensed safety. Jenna crouched beside him, murmuring reassurances, her fingers stroking his fur with a calm born of years of partnership. Marcus kept his eyes on the subdued man, breathing hard but steady as security personnel rushed in, handcuffing the attacker and guiding him away. The immediate threat was neutralized, but Marcus's instincts told him the danger was far from over. He glanced around the station, noting the presence of law enforcement and the swelling crowd of onlookers. As paramedics arrived to tend to the shaken handler and her dog, Marcus moved back into the shadows, his mind already racing ahead. He knew this was just the opening move in a larger, more dangerous game. The man's desperation, his choice of hostage, and the location all pointed to something more sinister than a mere act of terror. Jenna stood, gathering her composure as she checked Blitz's condition, her eyes meeting Marcus's one last time before he slipped away into the station's maze of corridors. In that brief moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them, of lives saved, battles fought silently in the shadows, and a war that was just beginning beneath the surface of the city's everyday hum. Marcus Kane sat alone on the narrow balcony of his downtown apartment, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. The hum of traffic and the occasional siren blended into a background noise that was both familiar and alien to him. He stared out over the sprawling urban landscape, yet his mind was thousands of miles away, back in the dust-choked deserts where the war had never truly left him. The memories clung tightly, the sudden explosions, the sharp crack of gunfire, the faces of comrades lost. The weight of it all pressed on his chest, a silent burden he carried every day since returning home. He ran a hand through his dark, unruly hair, his sharp jaw clenched in a restless rhythm. The transition from battlefield to city streets was cruelly jarring. The discipline that once kept him alive now made him a stranger in a world that moved too fast, too shallow. Civilians bustled past without a clue, wrapped up in their daily lives, while he grappled with a sense of disconnection so profound it gnawed at him. Tonight's events at the subway station replayed relentlessly in his mind, the frantic faces, the cold steel of the attacker's knife, the weight of responsibility that had surged through him without hesitation. Marcus was a man trained to act decisively, to protect. And yet, beneath the surface, an ache lingered, a quiet loneliness that his military precision couldn't fix. His apartment was sparse, but meticulously organized, an echo of his past life. A wall lined with photos showed moments frozen in time, deployments with his SEAL team, training exercises, and rare glimpses of camaraderie amid chaos. The medals and patches told a story of valor, but they also marked a man who had seen too much. A muted television played in the corner, casting flickering light across the room, but Marcus barely registered it. Instead, he pulled out a worn leather journal from his desk drawer, its pages filled with scrawled thoughts and sketches, his way of keeping the storm inside at bay. He flipped through the pages, pausing on a line he had written weeks ago. Still here, still fighting. But what now? The buzzing of his phone broke the silence. He glanced at the screen, a message from an unknown number. The words were brief, but chilling. "We're watching. You're not done yet." Marcus's fingers tightened around the device. The threat was unmistakable, and the timing was no coincidence. His years as a Navy SEAL had ingrained in him a mindset of vigilance. He knew that returning to civilian life didn't mean the end of danger. Sometimes it meant it was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting. The man in the subway was only a symptom of a larger, unseen threat, and Marcus felt the familiar pull of duty drawing him back into the shadows. He stood, moving to the small kitchenette to pour himself a glass of water. The cold liquid did little to ease the fire in his gut. His thoughts turned to the handler and dog he'd seen. The bond between them, a rare beacon of trust in a world he found hard to navigate. He wondered if they knew what was coming, if they sensed the storm gathering on the horizon. Outside his window, the city buzzed on, indifferent to the battles waging in quiet corners and hidden alleys. Marcus knew he couldn't walk away from this. Not when so much was at stake. The discipline that had saved his life in war now demanded he act again, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. His fingers traced the edge of a photograph on his desk, an image of his SEAL team, all smiles and camaraderie, taken just before deployment. He remembered the promise they made to each other, to watch each other's backs, no matter the cost. That promise didn't end with the war. It was a tether pulling him toward a new mission. Marcus's phone buzzed again, this time with an encrypted call. He answered without hesitation. A voice, calm but urgent, came through the line. "Marcus, it's Harper. We've got intel linking the subway attack to a larger extremist cell. They're planning something bigger. We need you back in." Harper's voice was a lifeline, a reminder that Marcus's skills were still vital. The war had changed him, but it hadn't broken him. He squared his shoulders, the fire in his eyes reigniting. "Send me the details," he said, voice steady despite the storm within. As he hung up, Marcus felt the familiar surge of purpose. The city outside his window was no longer just a backdrop. It was a battlefield in its own right. And he was ready to face whatever came next, even if it meant confronting the ghosts of his past and the shadows lurking in the present. He moved to his closet, pulling out his tactical bag. Inside were the tools of his trade. Gear meticulously maintained, weapons cleaned and ready, a compact first aid kit. Packing was methodical, almost ritualistic, grounding him as he prepared to re-engage with a world that had refused to stand still. As dawn crept over the skyline, Marcus paused at his door, taking a deep breath. The weight of his past and the uncertainty of his future collided, But beneath it all was a resolute truth. He was a warrior, bound by duty and driven by a relentless commitment to protect. Stepping into the morning light, Marcus Kane was no longer just a man haunted by war. He was a soldier ready to face the battles yet to come, armed with experience, resilience, and a will forged in the crucible of combat. The city awaited, unaware that one of its most silent guardians was already moving through its streets, prepared to fight the unseen threats that lurked in the shadows. Corporal Jenna Hayes moved through the dimly lit training hall, her boots clicking softly against the polished floor. The scent of worn leather and rubber mats filled the air, mingling with the faint metallic tang of the nearby kennels. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on Blitz, her German shepherd, resting quietly in his crate. His dark eyes met hers, calm but alert, the bond between them evident in that silent exchange. Jenna knelt beside him, fingers brushing through his thick coat, feeling the familiar warmth and strength beneath her touch. Blitz shifted slightly, nuzzling her hand with a soft woof, a gesture that spoke volumes of their years together. She had trained him from a puppy, shaping him into a disciplined partner capable of navigating the chaos of their dangerous world. Their connection was forged through countless hours of obedience drills, simulated attacks, and quiet moments of trust. "All right, boy," Jenna murmured, her voice steady despite the lingering adrenaline from the subway incident. "Let's get you checked out." She stood and led Blitz toward the small medical station set up nearby, where she carefully examined his legs and paws for any injuries sustained during the hostage situation. Despite the tension, Blitz remained composed, a testament to his training and their unbreakable rapport. Their partnership wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Jenna understood Blitz's moods, his subtle cues when danger lurked or when it was safe to relax. She remembered the night they first met at the military kennel, the way his eyes had locked with hers, an unspoken promise passing between them. From that moment, they had become inseparable, each relying on the other in ways words couldn't express. As she worked, Jenna's mind replayed the chaotic moments in the subway. The fear in the attacker's eyes, the tension in Blitz's muscles, and the overwhelming need to protect not just the dog, but the countless innocent people around them. She had learned to silence her panic, channeling it into focus, knowing that any hesitation could cost lives. The training that had brought them here was grueling and exacting. Early mornings spent running obstacle courses, nights refining scent detection techniques, and endless sessions practicing controlled aggression and restraint. Blitz was more than a dog. He was an extension of Jenna's will, a partner whose loyalty was absolute. Nearby, a group of officers gathered, discussing the incident in hushed tones. Jenna caught snippets of their conversation, questions about the attacker's motives, speculation about potential threats. Despite the noise, she remained centered on Blitz, attuned to his breathing and heartbeat. She knew that the dog's instincts often picked up on things humans missed. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, reading a message from a supervisor. "Stay sharp. Intel suggests this may be part of a coordinated effort. Debrief at 0900. The word sent a chill through her, but Jenna's resolve hardened. She was no stranger to danger, and she would face whatever came next with the same determination that had carried her through years of service. Blitz stood suddenly, muscles coiled like springs, ears perked. Jenna followed his gaze to a shadow shifting near the entrance. Her hand instinctively moved to the small knife strapped to her belt, a precaution during field operations. But the figure stepped into the light, revealing a fellow handler coming to check on them. "You all right?" the man asked, nodding toward Blitz. "Fine," Jenna replied, her voice calm but firm. He's shaken but ready. The man smiled, a brief gesture of camaraderie. Good. We're all counting on you two. Jenna's thoughts drifted to the bond that made their team strong. Unlike many officers who worked with technology or tactics alone, she and Blitz embodied a living connection. Instinct and training fused into one. It was a partnership built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Later, alone in the kennel, Jenna sat on the floor beside Blitz, letting the quiet wash over them. She reflected on the sacrifices their line of work demanded, the long hours, the constant vigilance, the emotional toll. Yet, in Blitz's steady presence, she found a source of strength and solace. She whispered softly, "We've got this, boy. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Blitz's tail thumped gently against the floor, a silent affirmation. Outside, the city buzzed with the usual rhythms of life, unaware of the storm gathering beneath its surface. But within the walls of the kennel and in the hearts of those who served, the bond between handler and dog was a beacon, a testament to loyalty, courage, and the unspoken promises that carried them through the darkest hours. The subway station, once a place of hurried commuters and mundane routines, had transformed into a cauldron of fear and uncertainty. The hostage situation, which had begun with a desperate man wielding a knife, escalated rapidly as the hours wore on. The man's voice, raw and ragged, echoed through the underground corridors, laced with threats that sent chills through everyone trapped in the confined space. "Listen up!" he barked, his grip tightening on the leash that restrained Blitz, the German shepherd. The dog's eyes flickered nervously between the man and his handler, Corporal Jenna Hayes, who stood as a fragile shield between the attacker and the crowd. "I'm not playing games. Any move, any sign of trouble, and this dog goes down. You don't want to see that happen, do you?" The crowd pressed against the tiled walls, faces pale and eyes wide with terror. Mothers clutched children to their chests, strangers held hands in silent solidarity, and phones recorded the unfolding nightmare. The atmosphere was suffocating, a volatile mix of panic and helplessness. Overhead, the station's public address system crackled to life. A negotiator's voice, calm but firm, attempted to pierce the tension. "Sir, we want to help. Let's talk this through. Nobody needs to get hurt." But the man's response was a bitter sneer. "I'm not here to negotiate," he spat. "I've got demands, and if they're not met, this dog pays the price. Understand?" His eyes darted wildly, betraying a mind fraying at the edges. The demands were vague at first: money, safe passage, a platform to broadcast his grievances. But as negotiators tried to buy time, the man's threats grew more erratic, his voice rising to a frantic crescendo. He paced the platform, leash taut, his knife glinting under the harsh fluorescent lights. Jenna remained close to Blitz, whispering soothing words, her fingers lightly stroking his fur to keep him calm. The dog's body was tense, ready to spring, but obedient to her commands. The bond they shared was the only anchor in the swirling chaos. Security personnel and police formed a perimeter, their radios crackling with updates and coordination efforts. SWAT teams prepared discreetly in nearby tunnels, eyes trained on the hostage zone. The clock ticked relentlessly, each second pregnant with the potential for violence. Amid the swirl of activity, Marcus Kane watched from a vantage point above the station. His eyes narrowed as he studied the man's behavior, the flickers of hesitation, the restless movements. His military training dissected the scene, searching for an opening, a weakness. The attacker was dangerous, but unstable. That volatility was both a threat and an opportunity. Negotiators continued their efforts, speaking in measured tones, trying to humanize the man, to reach whatever part of him still clung to reason. But the man's gaze remained hard, his voice bitter and filled with rage. You think you can save everyone? You don't know what I've lost. Nobody listens. His words hung heavy in the stale subway air, a glimpse into a fractured psyche. The crowd listened, hearts pounding, caught between hope and dread. Suddenly, the man's hand tightened around the leash, and Blitz growled low, a warning growl that rippled through the tension. Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper. Easy, boy. Stay with me. The attacker's eyes flicked toward the dog, momentarily distracted, and Marcus seized the moment. He shifted silently, preparing to move. The plan was clear in his mind, swift, decisive, and precise. Any hesitation could cost lives. But the man sensed the shift in atmosphere and raised his voice, louder now, more threatening. I swear, one wrong move and... His threat was cut off as a sudden commotion rippled through the crowd. A teenager, unable to contain fear, stumbled, knocking into a woman beside him. The attacker's grip on the leash tightened and the knife flashed. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to freeze time. Jenna tightened her hold on Blitz, who bristled, ready to protect. The man's eyes flicked to Marcus's position, fury and fear mingling in a dangerous blend. Marcus's muscles tensed, every fiber screaming to act, but he held himself back. The negotiator's voice rose again, pleading for calm, buying seconds that felt like eternities. Please, Marcus murmured under his breath, scanning for the perfect moment. The man's mental state was unraveling, and the stakes were higher than ever. Suddenly, the attacker's voice broke through the tension, raw and desperate. I want to be heard. I want them to know what I've suffered. His words echoed off the concrete walls, a haunting cry lost amid the chaos. The negotiators redoubled their efforts, trying to connect, to find the humanity buried beneath the rage. Jenna's fingers brushed Blitz's muzzle, grounding them both in the storm. The dog's eyes met hers, steady and trusting. Marcus took a slow breath, muscles coiling like springs. The moment was fleeting, fragile, but it was coming. Outside the station, emergency lights flickered and sirens wailed, signaling reinforcements arriving. The world beyond the underground cavern waited, unaware of the fragile line between disaster and salvation being tread below. Inside, the man's demands grew more erratic, his threats sharper. The tension reached a breaking point, a powder keg ready to ignite. And then, in the charged silence, Marcus prepared to strike. Knowing that the lives of the hostages and the fate of the city hung in the balance. Marcus Kane's breath was slow, controlled, as he melted further into the shadows beneath the flickering station lights. Every muscle was coiled, every nerve sharpened from years of training and battlefield survival. The chaos around him, the panicked whispers, the hurried footsteps, the distant wail of sirens, faded into a muted backdrop as his focus narrowed to the man holding Blitz and Jenna hostage. He studied the attacker's stance, tense, desperate, eyes wild but flickering with fleeting uncertainty. The hostage-taker's grip on the leash was taut, but his knife hand trembled slightly, a small sign of vulnerability Marcus intended to exploit. The handler and dog were close, but any sudden movement could set the volatile man off, risking lives. Marcus's mind raced through a mental checklist, positioning, timing, potential escape routes, and the safety of the hostages. He recognized the delicate balance between swift action and the necessity to minimize casualties. This wasn't a battlefield littered with cover. It was a crowded subway platform filled with civilians frozen by fear. His eyes locked on Jenna's steady presence beside Blitz. her quiet commands a lifeline to the dog's composure. The bond between handler and canine was palpable, an unspoken language of trust and resilience. Marcus knew that any disruption to that fragile connection could trigger chaos. He shifted slightly, inching closer along a narrow ledge behind a row of benches, moving silently despite the tension hanging thick in the air. His fingers brushed the grip of his concealed combat knife, ready, but he hoped to avoid lethal force if possible. Precision and speed would be his allies. The attacker's gaze flicked briefly toward Marcus's shadow, suspicion flashing across his face. For a heartbeat, the man's breathing hitched, and Marcus sensed hesitation, a crack in the armor of desperation. He held still, waiting for the perfect moment as the negotiator's voice droned on, attempting to calm the situation from the station's PA system. Suddenly, the attacker snarled, tightening his leash, pulling Blitz closer as if using the dog as a shield. Jenna's hand was firm yet gentle on Blitz's collar, her voice low and steady. "Easy, Blitz. Stay with me." The dog's eyes flicked to Marcus's shadow, muscles taut but obedient. Marcus's heart pounded in rhythm with the tension, every sense alert. Then, a sudden noise, a dropped phone clattering against the tile, echoed sharply. The attacker jerked his head toward the sound, momentarily distracted. It was the opening Marcus needed. In one fluid motion, Marcus sprang from the shadows, closing the distance in a blur. His hand shot out, grabbing the attacker's wrist before the knife could strike. The man's eyes widened in shock as Marcus twisted sharply, wrenching the blade free with a practiced flick that sent it skittering across the floor. A brutal melee erupted. Marcus's grip was ironclad as he forced the attacker's arm behind his back, leveraging years of combative training. The man struggled, wild and frantic, but Marcus's control was relentless. He used his free hand to press the attacker's head down, muffling any cries. Jenna moved instantly, pulling Blitz back into safety, her voice calm but urgent as she secured the leash. Blitz, though tense, relaxed slowly, sensing the immediate danger had passed. The crowd exhaled, collectively, a wave of relief washing over the hostages as security personnel rushed forward to secure the subdued man. Marcus remained focused, eyes scanning for any further threats, muscles still taut from the rapid engagement. Paramedics edged through the crowd, tending to those shaken by the ordeal. Jenna knelt beside Blitz, checking him over carefully. The dog's breathing was steady, eyes alert, but no longer fearful. Jenna's hand stroked his fur, grounding them both after the adrenaline-fueled chaos. Marcus took a moment to assess the situation. The attacker was restrained, but his wild eyes hinted at a deeper, darker motive. As law enforcement began to question the man, Marcus's instincts told him this was just the surface of a more complex threat. The subdued man had been muttering fragments, words about grievances, plans, and a wider network. Marcus's mind raced, connecting dots invisible to others. This wasn't a lone act of desperation. It was part of something larger, more sinister. As officers secured the perimeter, Marcus slipped away quietly, blending into the station's maze of corridors. He needed to act fast, to uncover the layers beneath the attack before more lives were at risk. His phone buzzed with an encrypted message. "We're mobilizing. Meet at HQ ASAP. Harper." Marcus's jaw tightened. Harper was the link to the intelligence community, the one who could provide the bigger picture he needed. With a last glance at the crowded platform, now a scene of tentative calm, Marcus moved swiftly toward the exit. The city outside was oblivious to the shadow war unfolding beneath its streets, but Marcus was ready to dive deeper into the darkness. Every step was measured, every breath controlled as he prepared to face the looming threat. The rescue was only the beginning. Marcus lunged forward with the precision born of years in combat, his hand snapping around the attacker's wrist just as the knife swung downward. The sharp blade grazed the air where his throat had been moments before, missing by mere inches. The crowd's gasps were drowned out by the rush of adrenaline surging through Marcus's veins. His grip tightened, twisting the man's arm with unyielding force, wrenching the weapon free in a blur of motion that sent it clattering across the tiled floor. The attacker's eyes widened in shock, but panic swiftly morphed into fury. He lashed out blindly, struggling against Marcus's iron hold, desperate to reclaim control. Marcus's other hand shot out, clamping over the man's mouth to muffle any cries, his body moving with fluid efficiency as he forced the assailant down onto the cold platform. Blitz, still tethered by the leash, barked sharply, teeth bared but obedient to Jenna's calming commands. Jenna stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Easy, Blitz. Stay with me." The dog's growl softened, his eyes never leaving Marcus's every move, a silent partner in the unfolding rescue. Security officers surged forward, tightening the perimeter as Marcus maneuvered the attacker into a submission hold, leveraging his training to neutralize the threat without causing unnecessary harm. The man thrashed violently, but Marcus's grip was relentless, a testament to the discipline etched into his muscles and mind. Around them, the subway station's atmosphere shifted from paralyzing fear to cautious relief. Commuters who had been frozen in place began to stir, some wiping tears, others clutching phones with trembling hands. The reverberation of distant sirens grew louder as emergency responders arrived, their presence a promise of order amid the unraveling crisis. Jenna moved quickly to secure Blitz, her fingers tightening on the leash as she checked the dog's limbs for injuries. Blitz's breathing was heavy but steady, his eyes bright and focused despite the ordeal. Jenna whispered reassurances, her bond with the dog a lifeline in the storm. Marcus remained vigilant, scanning the crowd for any secondary threats. His military instincts refused to relax, even as the attacker was cuffed and led away by officers. The man's wild eyes flicked toward Marcus, a mixture of hatred and something darker. Fear, regret. It was impossible to tell in the fleeting glance. As paramedics tended to those shaken by the ordeal, Marcus's attention shifted to the attacker's belongings scattered across the platform. Among them, he spotted a crumpled note, hastily written but containing cryptic references to a network and a plan that went far beyond the subway station. Harper's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece, sharp and insistent. "Marcus, we've got a bigger problem. That guy's connected to an extremist cell. We're mobilizing to track down their operatives." Marcus pocketed the note, his mind already racing. The rescue was just the opening move in a dangerous game. "Understood. I'm moving to secure any intel I can find." Jenna approached, her face pale but resolute. "Thanks for stepping in. I don't know how you saw the opening so fast, but you saved lives today." Marcus nodded, exhaustion shadowing his eyes. "It's what I'm trained to do. But this isn't over." Together, they moved toward a quieter corner of the station, where authorities were gathering evidence. Jenna handed Marcus a small recording device she'd retrieved from the attacker's jacket. "This might have something?" He was muttering about plans, names, locations. Marcus secured the device, already formulating the next steps. The city's dark underbelly was stirring, and they were at the front line. He glanced once more at Blitz and Jenna, their partnership a beacon of hope amid the encroaching threat, as the SWAT teams prepared to sweep the station and surrounding areas. Marcus and Jenna exchanged a brief, knowing look. The fight was far from over, but together, They would face whatever came next. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Coordinates and a time, a call to action. He squared his shoulders, ready to dive deeper into the shadows. The rescue was a spark. The inferno was just beginning. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of a secured command center, Marcus Kane sat hunched over a cluttered table strewn with digital maps, intercepted communications, and the faint hum of computers. The sterile air was thick with tension, punctuated only by the quiet murmurs of agents and analysts piecing together fragments of a larger puzzle. Outside the room, the city moved on unaware. But inside, a storm was brewing, one that threatened to upend everything. The evidence uncovered from the subway hostage had opened a door into a shadow network of extremists, a web of operatives planning attacks with chilling precision. The man they'd subdued was just a thread in a tapestry woven with violence and secrecy. Marcus's sharp eyes scanned the decrypted messages flashing across the screen, locations, coded instructions, names whispered in shadow. Across the table stood Jenna Hayes, her uniform crisp yet marked by fatigue, eyes locked on the data feed. Their earlier encounter at the station had forged an unspoken bond, a shared purpose that now propelled them deeper into the fight. Jenna's hand rested lightly on Blitz's leash, the dog sitting obediently beside her, alert despite the calm. An intelligence officer leaned in, voice low but urgent. "We've traced several communications to a warehouse on the city's outskirts. It's being used as a staging ground. Surveillance confirms heavy movement, but the identities of the operatives remain unknown." Marcus nodded, fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. "We need to move fast. If they're preparing for something, there's no time to waste." The room fell into a focused silence as plans were drafted. Tactical teams were briefed, routes mapped, contingencies considered. Marcus's mind raced through every detail, every possible variable. Years of combat had taught him that no plan survived first contact unscathed, but preparation could tip the scales between survival and disaster. Jenna's gaze met his, a flicker of determination passing between them. "Blitz and I are ready to assist. Our experience with close-quarters situations could be invaluable." Marcus appreciated her resolve. The dog's keen senses and their seamless coordination could provide a critical advantage in the confined, unpredictable environment of the warehouse. "We'll need every edge we can get." As the tactical teams mobilized, Marcus and Jenna prepared their gear, checking weapons, communications, and medical supplies. The weight of the moment pressed heavily. Lives depended on their precision and courage. The convoy rolled out under the cover of dusk, city lights fading behind them as they approached the warehouse district. The building loomed ahead, a hulking silhouette against the darkening sky, its windows shuttered, shadows pooling at its edges. Surveillance drones buzzed overhead, feeding live images to command, but the threat remained elusive. Marcus's heart beat steady, his senses heightened. The air was thick with anticipation and the faint scent of diesel and decay. Every step toward the warehouse was a step deeper into danger. Inside, the scene was stark. Rows of crates and pallets, dim lighting casting long shadows. The silence was deceptive, broken only by the soft murmur of voices and the shuffle of boots. Marcus signaled the team to spread out, moving with military precision through the maze-like interior. Jenna stayed close, Blitz at her side, the dog's nose twitching as he picked up faint scents. Their partnership was a silent dance of trust and instinct, each anticipating the other's moves. Marcus felt a flicker of reassurance knowing they were there. Suddenly, movement flickered at the edge of a stack of crates. Marcus's hand dropped to his weapon, eyes narrowing. A figure darted across the shadows, disappearing behind a steel container. The team tightened formation, weapons raised, breath steady. The tension snapped as gunfire erupted. Sharp, staccato bursts echoing through the cavernous space. Marcus dove behind cover, returning fire with controlled bursts. The firefight was brutal and chaotic, the air thick with smoke and the acrid tang of gunpowder. Jenna called out commands, her voice steady despite the chaos. Blitz barked, darting forward to intercept an assailant attempting to flank their position. The dog's fierce presence disrupted the attacker's momentum, buying precious seconds. Marcus pressed forward, adrenaline sharpening his senses. He moved through the labyrinth of crates, clearing rooms with lethal efficiency. Each encounter was a test of skill and nerve. The lines between ally and enemy blurred in the haze of battle. Amid the gunfire, Marcus spotted a figure moving with calculated intent, the mastermind behind the operation. The man's eyes were cold, his movements precise as he directed the remaining operatives. Marcus's pulse quickened. This was the moment they had been preparing for. With a surge of determination, Marcus broke cover, closing the distance in a blur. A fierce struggle ensued, fists and weapons colliding in a deadly dance. Marcus's training took over, every blow calculated, every move deliberate. The mastermind fought fiercely but was no match for years of honed combat experience. With a final, decisive strike, Marcus subdued the man, pinning him to the ground as backup arrived to secure the area. The warehouse fell silent, the threat neutralized. Jenna approached, her expression a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Blitz sat obediently beside her, alert but calm. Marcus looked around at the aftermath, the shattered crates, the scattered weapons, and the heavy toll exacted. As authorities moved in to process the scene and detain the captured operatives, Marcus allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The extremist network was fractured, but still dangerous. In the quiet that followed, Marcus met Jenna's gaze. There was an understanding there, of sacrifice, resilience, and the unyielding resolve to protect a city that often took its guardians for granted. The fight had pushed them to their limits, but it had also forged a bond that would endure. Together, they were ready for whatever lay ahead. In a dimly lit conference room at the federal agency's headquarters, Marcus Kane sat across from Jenna Hayes, their expressions taut with exhaustion and resolve. The flickering glow of multiple monitors cast shifting shadows across the walls, displaying live feeds, maps, and intercepted communications. Around them, intelligence agents and analysts pored over data, their voices hushed but urgent. The initial raid on the warehouse had cracked open a dangerous network, but the path ahead was tangled with uncertainty. Marcus leaned forward, fingers steepled as he absorbed the briefing. The extremists we disrupted were just one cell, he said, voice low but firm. There are others, scattered but connected. Their reach goes deeper than we thought. Jenna nodded, her gaze steady as she listened. Blitz rested quietly at her feet, alert despite the sterile environment. We need to combine efforts, field experience with intelligence analysis. It's the only way to track down their operatives before they strike again. An intelligence officer stepped forward, projecting a map of the city marked with red dots, locations linked to suspicious activity. Our surveillance has identified several safe houses and communication hubs. We believe these are command points for different cells coordinating attacks. Marcus's eyes scanned the map, tracing potential routes and choke points. We'll need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the more time they have to plan and execute. The room buzzed with the energy of coordinated action. Federal agents, local law enforcement, and tactical teams were being mobilized for simultaneous raids. Marcus and Jenna exchanged a glance. the weight of the operation pressing down, but their determination unshaken. Jenna crouched beside Blitz, her hand resting lightly on his head. "Blitz and I will be embedded with the tactical teams," she said. "Our experience in close quarters and tracking will be crucial." Marcus appreciated her commitment. "I'll coordinate with Harper and the intelligence units. We need real-time updates and secure communication lines." As plans solidified, Marcus and Jenna prepared for deployment. The partnership they'd forged in crisis was now a vital asset in a sprawling investigation that threatened to engulf the city. Trust was essential. Between handlers and dogs, between soldiers and analysts, between strangers united by a common cause. The night before the Yi operation, Marcus found himself alone on the rooftop of the agency building, the city sprawling beneath him like a living organism. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. He thought of Jenna and Blitz, the quiet strength they embodied, and the countless innocents depending on their success. His phone buzzed. A secure message from Harper. "All units ready. Operation scheduled for dawn. Stay sharp." Marcus tucked the device away, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. The coming hours would test their skills, their resolve, and their ability to trust one another amidst chaos. As dawn broke, the city stirred awake, unaware of the invisible war waging in its shadows. Marcus and Jenna, flanked by teams of agents and officers, moved out with purpose. The first raid targeted a nondescript townhouse in a quiet neighborhood. Blitz's nose twitched as Jenna led the way inside, the dog's senses attuned to hidden dangers. Inside, the team uncovered weapons caches, encrypted devices, and documents linking the cell to other operatives. The arrests were swift but tense, the suspects resisting but ultimately subdued. Each success built momentum, but also revealed the vast scale of the threat. Over the following days, coordinated raids unfolded across the city. Marcus worked tirelessly with intelligence units, decrypting messages and directing resources. Jenna and Blitz faced down dangers in cramped apartments, dark alleyways, and abandoned warehouses. Their bond was a constant, a source of comfort and strength in the relentless pursuit. Despite the victories, the network's resilience became clear. Operatives slipped through cracks, communication lines adapted, and new threats emerged. The fight demanded adaptability and unyielding vigilance. Amid the pressure, Marcus and Jenna found moments of quiet connection. Between briefings and operations, they shared stories of loss, hope, and the burdens of their duties. Their partnership deepened, forged not only by necessity, but by mutual respect and understanding. One evening, as the city lights shimmered through the agency's windows, Marcus caught Jenna's eye. "We're making progress," he said, voice tinged with cautious optimism. "But this isn't over." She nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll face whatever comes next, together." Outside, Blitz lay quietly, his watchful eyes a reminder of the unwavering loyalty at the heart of their mission. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and sacrifice, but united, they were ready to confront the shadows threatening their city. The abandoned warehouse sat at the edge of the industrial district. Its corrugated metal walls rusted and worn, windows shattered like empty eyes staring into the night. The air was thick with the scent of oil and decay, the silence broken only by the distant hum of city traffic. Inside, shadows clung to the corners, hiding secrets that had brought Marcus Kane, Jenna, Hayes, and a tactical team to the brink of a deadly confrontation. Marcus crouched behind a stack of wooden pallets, his breath steady despite the tension coiling in his muscles. The dim light revealed a labyrinth of crates and machinery, perfect cover for the armed operatives they sought. Jenna was close beside him, Blitz at her heels, the dog's keen senses alert to every sound and movement. The team had tracked the extremist network to this location after days of relentless pursuit. Intelligence had indicated that the warehouse was a hub for weapons storage and planning, a critical node in the operation they were determined to dismantle. Now, the moment had come to storm it. A low murmur of voices echoed through the cavernous space, punctuated by the metallic click of weapons being readied. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he spotted figures moving with calculated purpose. Masked men in tactical gear, their movements disciplined and coordinated. This was no ragtag gang. They were trained, dangerous, and prepared to fight to the death. Jenna whispered, "Blitz, stay close." The dog's ears flicked, muscles tensing as if sensing the impending clash. Marcus signaled the team to spread out, weapons raised, advancing slowly and silently through the maze of crates. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire shattered the silence, bullets ricocheting off metal and wood. The warehouse erupted into chaos as both sides exchanged fire, the air thick with smoke and the acrid tang of gunpowder. Marcus dove behind a steel beam, returning fire with controlled bursts, his years of combat experience guiding every move. Jenna called out commands, her voice steady amidst the turmoil. Blitz lunged forward, teeth bared, intercepting an assailant attempting to flank the team. The dog's fierce presence disrupted the enemy's formation, buying precious seconds for the officers to regroup. The firefight was brutal and relentless. Shadows danced in the flickering light, bodies moving in a deadly ballet of survival. Marcus pressed forward, clearing paths with precision, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the operation. In the chaos, Marcus caught sight of a figure moving with cold efficiency, the mastermind behind the network. The man's eyes were steel, his movements deliberate as he directed his operatives, orchestrating the defense with ruthless calculation. Determined, Marcus broke cover, closing the distance in a rapid sprint. The mastermind turned, recognizing the threat, and a fierce hand-to-hand struggle ensued. Fists collided, bodies twisting, the fight raw and unforgiving. Marcus relied on training honed through years of hardship, every strike purposeful, every defense calculated. The mastermind fought with desperation, but was ultimately overpowered. Marcus delivered a final, decisive blow, pinning the man to the ground as backup arrived to secure the scene. The warehouse fell silent, the immediate threat neutralized. Jenna rushed to Marcus's side, her breath heavy but steady. Blitz sat alert, eyes scanning the surroundings for any lingering danger. The team began securing weapons caches and gathering intelligence, the operation yielding critical evidence that would unravel the extremist network further. As the tactical team processed the warehouse, Marcus looked around at the aftermath. The shattered crates, discarded weapons, and the weight of lives changed forever. The cost of the fight was etched into every corner of the building, a stark reminder of the stakes involved. In a brief moment of respite, Marcus met Jenna's gaze. There was exhaustion there, but also a fierce pride, a recognition of the battle fought and the lives saved. They both understood that while this victory was significant, the war was far from over. The captured mastermind was escorted away, his silence a testament to defeat and calculation. Marcus felt a surge of determination. Dismantling the network required more than this single win. It demanded relentless pursuit and unwavering commitment. Outside, the city lights twinkled, oblivious to the darkness they had just witnessed. Marcus and Jenna exchanged a look that spoke volumes, a promise to continue the fight, to protect the innocent, and to stand united against the threats lurking in the shadows. Together, with Blitz by their side, They prepared to face the challenges ahead, knowing that courage and loyalty would be their greatest weapons in the battles yet to come. The morning light filtered softly through the blinds of the safe house where Marcus Kane and Jenna Hayes had retreated after the warehouse raid. The air was thick with the quiet aftermath of battle. Subdued voices on the radio, the hum of equipment, and the occasional shuffle of feet moving with purpose. Outside, the city stirred back to life, unaware of the lives forever altered within its bounds. Marcus sat at a small table, muscles still taut from the previous night's fight, his gaze distant as he sipped bitter coffee. The weight of the past weeks pressed on him. Not just the physical toll, but the intangible burden of responsibility, of lives saved and lost. His mind replayed the moments of combat, the faces of those they'd fought alongside, and those who never made it. Across the room, Jenna tended to Blitz, carefully cleaning a minor scrape on the dog's paw. Blitz rested his head on her lap, eyes half closed but alert. The bond between handler and canine a quiet testament to resilience and trust. Jenna's fingers moved gently, her voice soft as she murmured reassurances. They had been through hell and back together. Each operation, each confrontation deepening their connection beyond mere duty. The partnership forged in crisis had blossomed into something stronger, a mutual understanding that words couldn't fully capture. Marcus glanced up, catching Jenna's eyes. There was a shared fatigue there, but also a flicker of something unspoken. Respect, gratitude, perhaps even hope. He reached across the table, briefly clasping her hand. The gesture was simple but carried weight, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they'd endured. Outside, the city's pulse quickened with the bustle of everyday life, oblivious to the shadows that had been pushed back, if only temporarily. The extremist network they'd dismantled was fractured, its leaders captured or fled. But Marcus knew the fight was far from over. Darkness had many corners, and vigilance was a constant companion. Jenna looked up from Blitz, her voice steady yet tinged with weariness. "What now?" she asked, the question hanging in the air like a challenge and an invitation. Marcus considered the path ahead. The battlefield had shifted from war zones overseas to the hidden threats within the city. His role had evolved from soldier to protector, from lone warrior to part of a team bound by trust and purpose. "We keep going," he replied quietly. "We watch, we protect, and we fight whenever we have to. Together." Their shared resolve was a beacon amid uncertainty. They had faced the worst and emerged stronger, their bond a shield against the coming storms. Days later, on a quiet stretch of beach far from the city's chaos, Marcus stood alone, the salty breeze tousling his hair as waves crashed rhythmically at his feet. The ocean stretched endlessly before him, a vast expanse of blue and possibility. It was a moment of peace, a brief respite from the relentless demands of duty. As he gazed out, a figure approached, Jenna walking briskly, Blitz trotting faithfully beside her. They stopped a respectful distance apart, the space filled with unspoken words and shared history. Marcus offered a rare, genuine smile. "It's good to see you outside the chaos," he said. Jenna returned the smile, eyes warm. "Sometimes you need a reminder of what we're fighting for." They stood together, watching the horizon where sky met sea, the future uncertain, but their resolve unwavering. In that quiet moment, they found strength, not just in themselves, but in each other. The story of Marcus, Jenna, and Blitz was far from finished. It was a tale of courage born from adversity, of loyalty forged in fire, and of the enduring bonds that give meaning to the fight. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, ready to protect the city and the people they loved. as the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues across the water. Marcus felt a calm settle within him. He was no longer just a soldier haunted by the past, but a guardian embracing the future, steady, strong, and never alone.